quite a nice day today, so rather than doing the more physical stuff on the allotment, I decided maybe to do a little bit of tidying. This part of the allotment, I suppose you could call our orchard area. It's where we grow most of our fruit, and what I've been doing today is tidying around the beds. Now, they might not look too tidy. You might think, well, there are still weeds growing on that plot, on that bed. But if you look more closely, these actually aren't weeds. They're candy tuft that have self-seeded from the bed alongside it. And I'm wanting to keep those because they'll look quite pretty when they all come out. We've also got down here some foxgloves which are self-seeded, and the odd snapdragon, again self-seeded. So basically I've taken all the weeds that I can find out of this one, and all that remains next is maybe for a bit of tickling up with the border fork just to make the soil look a little bit nicer. Now maybe you can see this bed is one I still have to start on. Hope you can see the difference. There's sort of mossy bits of grass, things like shepherd's purse, some there, and goosegrass, which is starting to grow, or cleavers, whatever you want to call it. I've also tidied this bed, which, although it's covered with weed control fabric and chippings, grass seeds still manage to grow in amongst the chippings, the bark chippings. So they've been pulled out. It's quite easy to pull them out, really, as long as they haven't gone through the weed control. Excuse me. So that's what I've been up to this afternoon. And now I better get on with a bit more. I'll show you it when I've finished. Bye. I'm halfway through weeding the second fruit bed, and I've just stopped because I want to show you something. The bed that I've just been weeding has had soil that's much more claggy, and also there's been far more moss in it compared to the other bed where the soil was quite nice quite nice to weed and didn't have any moss in it. Can you see the difference? The bed that I did first has had quite a lot of sun on it today, and it probably gets sun when the sun comes out most of winter, whereas this one in winter is just about in total shade. It was in sunshine earlier on when I started, but as the sun's getting lower, it's actually becoming totally in the shade now. And the reason for that, if I can manage to show you without dazzling you, is that along that boundary we've got a very high leylandi hedge which belongs to the neighbouring garden, and in winter this part of the plot hardly gets any sunshine at all. In fact, this part can be frosted and the other part can be clear of frost. So consequently this bed has been much wetter, and that's encouraged the moss to grow. whereas the other bed has had a certain amount of sunshine and there wasn't any moss in there at all. And the other thing, just to point out before I carry on weeding that bed, is that that one has got far less of the seedlings that I want to keep. The reason for that is that the seedlings come from the pear bed, this bed, which in spring is covered in candy tuft and all sorts of annuals. They've migrated into this bed, but not yet got as far as the third bed. I'm going to have to be a lot more careful when I weed this one because there's all sorts of things coming up in there. I have to be very careful that I recognise the weeds and don't pick out the plants that I want to keep. Anyway, I better get back to my weeding. So, see you later. So, I've finished tidying these two beds now, and as you can see, the sun's just about disappeared from both of them. Just in case you're wondering what's in these two beds, the one at the front has got some gooseberries, some jostaberries, and there's a rhubarb just there. And in the middle is a white currant, which, to be honest, hasn't really done very much at all for us. And then in the other bed, just pop round, we've got more jostaberries, more gooseberries, and a Glencoe raspberry. That's a purple raspberry. And somewhere among all this, there it is another rhubarb. So that's me for today. While I've been doing this, Martin's been pruning back our buddleia and digging in some green manure. So if you pop over to his channel, Martin Garrett, Martin with a Y, you'll be able to see what he's been up to too. So, thanks for watching and bye for now.